Hello and welcome to our next session. We are here for session two with Sherry Duncan for Identity Was the Breach. I am Cloud Access and Privilege Abuse. And so we'll go ahead and get started. And then as soon as got Sherry's slides loaded, we will get started. I hear much about Lovable. That's where the slides were, but I don't have any content. So I'm inspired now to go look into it and see more. We were talking about all sorts of vibe coding, building, and secure code and insecure code and all the rest of it. So I know Sherry is a developer, so she's obviously going to have some perspectives on that as well as soon as we are ready to get started. So just give us a second and we will get going. I'm super excited about this. And we covered a lot of great ground, Josie. Thank you so much for setting the stage for everything that follows. I think we really covered a lot of really good information about how we want to be thinking about AI and ending at that conversation with the point about governance. Where do you start? And we had sort of had that question, and you were starting with saying it's identifying the assets. And John had said the same thing too. It's all a business decision. I remember in one of my early cybersecurity classes in law school, that's what they were saying about, there's no such thing as perfect security. It's only just kind of how much you're willing to invest versus how much risk you're willing to take. But then there's the compliance regulatory framework where there's real consequences or there's reputational damage. So there should be enough of a stick to do the right thing. And down. Let's see where Sherry will be back in a second. I'm gonna
You're
go ahead.
ready?
Oh yeah, we're ready when you are.
Okay, cool.
Do you
Oops, let
have
me go
your
back.
slides?
I do, but I still can't share it.
Can you email them to me?
Yes, let me see if I can email it to you.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't able to tell you earlier. I was not able to log in. All right. Yeah, I love the one. I'm even trying it. It wants me to go through a massive setup, which I'm
Oh
not.
man, really?
Yeah, it's not very friendly for sharing.
Goodness. Um, and then I put it in GitHub too. Let me see if I can download from GitHub.
You can just share your screen if you've got access to it. You can just. Oh, you don't know how to. You're having trouble actually sharing your screen. Got it. Okay.
Right.
It's just at the bottom. Should be. It should have the. Everybody's got permission to share.
Can you send it to me like they do on Zoom or no?
Nope. You have to. You can give me the slides and I can upload them, or you can share them yourself.
Oh, here we go. String.
Hang tight. We're almost there.
Camera, microphone, portrait, audio, voice, everything but share screen. StreamYard.
At the very
Entered.
bottom vertical bar. No, sorry, I'm saying horizontal bar, not vertical bar. Very bottom horizontal bar.
I see everything but that. Help.
Okay.
Window.
Have you sent me the slides?
Yes. Show slide bar. No. Oh, hold on.
You're
Show
still
slide
you're
bar.
still sending it to me as a lovable link. I can't access it.
Yeah, I was trying to download it. Hold on. Let me see if I can download it. Right. StreamYard. No. Settings. No. File.
Yeah, it's actually
Okay.
asked me to go through a multi-step setup before I can access your link. So I can't.
Map view. Slide bar. No. Exit full. Minimize. I'm doing minimize and maybe I'll see it there. No.
And after all of, and we're in the StreamYard link, in the studio, Sherry, right next
Uh-huh.
to all of our photos in my host view, it says, you have, there's also another present option there. So there's a few places I'm seeing the presents.
Hold on, let me StreamYard. StreamYard settings. Hide StreamYard. Hide others. No. File. Edit. Format. View. Oh, let me show slide
Have it, let me
over.
make sure that I can read someone's slides before we begin because I was like, oh, it's a link. No problem. I'll get to that later. But
Oh, show slide bar. Let me see if that helps. No. No, it just says file, edit.
all right, I will try to go through the lovable setup because
Oh my goodness.
it's a multi-step setup.
Oh my goodness. Windows.
Can you just begin and I'll go through the setup.
Okay, you want me to just start? Just start.
Yeah, I'll take the time to go through the setup.
Hold on now. I done clicked on something now. I can't see anything. I'm gonna go out and come back in. Okay, here we go. No, I have a black screen. I'll say share. We'll say share what? No, that's just the screaming. No. Okay. I'm just go through the slides and then when you connect or let me know. There.
Um, let's see what we can do. I'm going to try to share my screen within the lovable.
Okay. Technical difficulties.
Okay, I'm probably seeing too much of the level of screen. Let me see if I can get it onto full screen. Okay, so when I do this, I won't be able to see our screens. Everybody's here, everybody's off camera. Sherry, it is you. You should be able to see it now.
Yes, I do.
Okay, and I'll just move it as you go. All right, thank you for everybody's patience. Um, so we are ready to go. Sherry, the screen is yours.
Okay, great. Today we're going to talk about identity, the breach, and the cloud, IMA, privilege, and abuse. 80% of the breach is involved by identity. Today we're going to talk about the 5 A's and zero standing privileges. The anatomy of the modern cloud breach, why attackers love Azure's identity. 80% of the breach is involved compromised identities, not malware. Number one is initial access, phishing, MFA. You have to do discovery. You have to really look at the privilege escalation, the lateral movement, and the storage and the data. Attackers are legitimately Azure CLI PowerShell. They are actually part of our IT staff. The 5 A's. Why is the 5 A's important with identity access management? The architecture is robust and identity lifecycle. You have to have your identity, who is the human guest service principal management. That's why it's really important for role based access. Authentication, that's passwordless, that's phishing, that's resistance, that's MFA, that's FIDO. We talked about that earlier today. The other A is authentication. I'm not authentication, authorization, where they can touch Azure, role based access, least privilege, and attribute access. Administration, how do we manage it? Privilege access management, approval workflow. What's really important is audit. We need audits so that we can identify who has what. I always say, who's in the zoo, what do they do? If a single A is weak in the entire identity chain, then we have a problem. Microsoft Entra ID is a powerhouse for conditional access. The great thing about conditional access is you have to make sure it's configured properly, and it definitely works. You definitely need your multi-factor authentication. That helps out in so many different things. It's very, very important. It's also very important that you make sure that you install conditional access properly. And then after that, you have to manage your identities, um, where the password is being stored, the credential, and then also we talk about inter ID protection. They have a different type of license for this, but it's greatly helpful for um, weak credentials. When you do your policies for password management, it's great, a great tool to use. Privilege abuse in Azure PMI. I always say least restrictive. That's my goal. Least restrictive. You don't need global admin. You're not gonna get global admin. So my thing is make sure that you are secure and you're protected with a global admin. A lot of times corporations installed different applications for password management. And if you have an admin ID, you log in a different credential so we can monitor who's logging in. PIM is just in time access. Um, Everyone's not permitted. It's active or per role. There's a timeout within 8 hours. And it definitely requires MFA. Zero trust privileges. This is PIM activity flow. User request role activation. Provides business reason. Why do you need access? We definitely need that business reason. Complete phishing and MSA resistance. That helps a lot with a lot of phishing attempts that a lot of corporations have. And definitely manager approval. If you need access to, or to be a global admin, we need a reason why, and we need someone to approve that. Um, Role active define per window. Like for example, if you have a local machine and they want to install an application, we'll create something for you so you can log in and you can do that. Um, and it auto expires, which is great, so that we can also monitor that. And also we have the audit logs. I'm probably going a little fast because since we're a little bit late, but we're on the last slide now. Um, Identity is your primary defense. It's aligned by strategy with the 5A, leveraging the power of intersuite. We are not stopping threats in identity, but we're concerned about starting threats as a primary line of defense. Account, authentication, authorization, administration, audit. Zero standing privileges with Azure PIM. Conditional access is login. Managed identities is no secret to sprawl. That concludes the presentation.
All right. Well, we have time to talk. So let's have a conversation about this. We've got all of our illustrious panels. This is a great opportunity to talk about it because um, I mean I'm curious between personal identity versus now we have machine identities coming into the mix, and obviously the acceleration of AI. So let me go ahead and just let's change up our screen a little bit and get everybody into the mix. And Sherry, if I can put you in the hot seat, and
Sure.
we can discuss when I come back on camera.
Yeah, I kind of rushed through it because I know we were kind of late on time. So,
That's fine. We actually have but we now have 20 minutes, so let's have a conversation. No,
cool.
that's great. So thanks everybody for your patience on getting us here. But Sherry, like, yeah, if you can come back on camera when you get a second, and let's talk about it. Uh, just switched my screens. Okay, Sherry, there you are. Hey, Sherry, good to
Hello.
see you. Okay, so identity as the management. Let me start with Jersey. What are your thoughts and feedback and conversation and questions and comments and expertise?
I don't think he's on camera.
All right, I got Josie off camera, so let's go to Frank.
So like I don't know if this is like I know you're a Microsoft person. I'm a huge Microsoft person and I can't rave about Intra enough. About Intra and Intune and all their tools. I'm a Linux guy kind of too, but I'm always telling the Linux guys what's the answer. And there are some, right? There are some, but to me, the way intro works is just so embedded and so great. So for me, I think we could spend like we could do like an 8 hour theme, Sherry, on just all the Microsoft tools, right? Because they're just amazing. And I think everybody, whether or not you use Microsoft, I tend to believe like Active Directory is, when it comes to cyber, kind of the center of the universe. Like people go out of their way to incorporate AD into Linux environments, or they try to do their own directory service kind of concept. But Active Directory is pretty much it. So for me, when I look at Intra, when I saw what they did, it was, because I came into the game during like Azure Information Protection. I think it's named something different now, but like those are the things that are just amazing. And I it's not easy to manage Intra, but it's also not impossible. So yeah, do you have to know, do you need somebody like Sherry? Yeah. You probably want somebody like Sherry. The cool thing now though is that to me with Intra is that Sherry could do this one thing for like multiple companies. So like you don't need just one dedicated. I mean, I'm not trying to put anybody out of job
Plan.
here, but
Yeah.
like I think it's so cool that like somebody like Sherry could come in and like I got you and provide an effective kind of concept. And you're going to see later what I'm going to talk about is how do we monitor that, right? Because like you'll go out and you'll create this amazing kind of like program, this identity program, and then you want to be again cocky about how solid it is and how it's maintained. So no, I love Intra and I love all these things.
Yeah, I was working for a startup company and they had MFA configured, but with that conditional access, it wasn't configured properly. So then we put in a policy to change their password and nobody can log in because the conditional access was not configured properly. So I had to go in and configure it and identify what's right, what's wrong, and then I had to create a policy on that. Okay, we did this because of this. So it's very, very super important that number one, it's installed. Number two, it's installed correctly.
Yeah. And then to me, the cool thing about it, another cool thing about it is that, see, I'm a huge PowerShell guy. Like I love PowerShell to me is the single biggest, like it's freaking peanut butter as far as I'm concerned. So like the fact that you can just kind of like use PowerShell in the back end to kind of monitor and do everything that you need it to is just amazing.
Yeah, it's very, very helpful for our onboarding and offboarding users.
I'm not sure why my
Did
screen is changing. There we go.
Sherry, I like what you said about availability too. We forget about that sometimes. That it's confidentiality, integrity, and availability. I love sometimes you turn it too tight. What do they say? The most secure system is, yeah, in concrete, dropped at the bottom of the ocean. Yeah, but really, what good does something like that do? So, you want to make sure that you, and I like the way you mentioned, like, you want to go granular as possible. And it's difficult, it's tough. I did identity access management for SAP systems. It was rough because we went from a no security mindset to the other end and we fought tooth and nail with these business lines. But we got to the point where like we can't allow you to have debug access in production. And but they were
Yeah.
used to it. So that's the tough. And have you seen that in organizations where they're used to the old school ways and when you try to talk them into best practices, it's tough. It's tough taking away responsibilities from people.
Definitely. Like Frank said, he's a Linux guy, and all you guys want root access. I'm like, give me a
Yeah.
business reason why you need root access.
Yep.
I'm like, show me what you're doing and see what you need root access for. And you
Yeah.
can, justify that, then, and that's where we came up with PAM too, so that, you can use CyberArk and you can log in, so
Yep.
you think you need root access and do what you need to do, and then still do your job at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And usually
yeah,
there's other ways, like you said, you can sudo. You can. I get it. If you truly need root, that's an emergency situation, and that's what the admins always came up to me because they were like, "Well, what if it goes down? If it goes down, all bets are off. Okay, we're going to give you whatever you need. Like break the window. But until that comes up, we're not giving you, like you said, we're not giving you root. You have to give me a business technical limitation, or Rome better be burning. One or the other.
Right.
Yeah.
and the time-based thing was a huge thing. To me, the only thing I would love to see is, so in the military we had like enterprise admins, right? And I was fortunate enough to be one. But the way we did it was we always wanted two people integrity, especially with an enterprise admin, right? So the way we implemented it was I was like the first name, and like John would be the second part. So it'd be like Frank dot McNichols. Did I say that right, John?
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm Mexican, man. I'm sorry. So like, so that's the way we would do it, right? So I knew part of the password, and then he would know the second part. So no one person
Yeah.
had access. I always, like, whenever I was in the military working with Microsoft, I was like, dude, you need to make CAC authentication for two people. Wouldn't that be amazing? Like, to where like you both have CACs, almost like we see it in the movies, right? They both put the key in, three, two, one. Maybe not that, sophisticated, but I do think that they need to get to that point where like you can have two people, verification, so that so that some things can't be done without two people. Because I
Right.
think that's the only thing that, like, to me, Intune, and all, a lot of these things are missing, is that kind of capability where the trust but verify, or two-person integrity. I think that would be amazing.
I mean, I think you could, Frank, you got to bring up a good point. I think they could do it now with alternate tokens or YubiKeys or some kind of hardware device. Okay, we're both in. We know it's Frank. We know it's John.
Yeah.
Restart the system. Or, you know what I mean? Like, something crazy that you should only do with approvals or in an emergency situation.
I think Sherry can make it happen. I don't know. Sherry,
Definitely.
I think you can make that happen. I believe in you. I believe in you.
Definitely. Definitely.
Sure, I'm fighting with our system here. It keeps switching us. So,
Oh.
what are some of your favorite? So we're talking about Microsoft. What are some of your favorite Microsoft tools? Obviously, it's everything from Enter ID to Defender to there's the SOAR, there's the SIM, there's uh, Sentinel. I mean, they have so many different product lines for different purposes. Talk a little bit about just your experience, what you love, what you use, what you recommend.
We're doing a lot of with the role-based access. The great thing about it is there's a module in Microsoft. I can't think of the top of my name of my head, but where you can do access reviews, which is amazing. So you can see who's in a zoo, what they do, and then you can do reports on that, and then you can send it out to the manager and say, okay, do you really need this? If not, then let's remove it. And then if you need to add it back, you still need a business reason for that. So it's great for me to do my access reviews because like I said, when you first go to a company, everybody has rights to this and this, this, and this. So we're definitely scaling back. So from there, it was really, really good to do those access reviews.
Sherry, I like that point you made. And Frank, it goes back to your accountability, but this is where it's used in a good way, because if you turn to the manager and go, do your people need this? We're holding you responsible. You approve this. You said that they needed this. We didn't think they needed it. We didn't like them having it. But if you hold someone responsible, and that's why I love digital signatures, just for, you get them to sign a PDF. It's amazing when you put a PDF in front of somebody and go, yeah, sign that with your CAC, your PIV, your YubiKey, whatever it is. And they go, okay. And they look at it and actually look at it instead of just going, yeah, they need all that. Do they really? Yeah, exactly.
They're. I think they just took everything to another level. With when you look at their Office 365 kind of capabilities, like, it's awesome. I mean, the ability, hey, I lost my laptop. Okay, let me remotely wipe it, and things like that. And what's funny, so like, I'll give you guys, I won't say the DoD, but like, you know, an agency struggled with like kind of like we got introduced to the technology of being able to know where the systems were so we could remotely, do stuff to them. And they were like, no, we don't want that. And it was like, yeah, dude, that's like kind of antiquated thinking. Like this new way of thinking, you shouldn't want to know where your systems are. So something happens to one, you know where it's at, right? And they provide those kind of capabilities. Like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of my
Intune.
favorite Microsoft tool.
Yeah, Intune is
Yeah,
great for
right.
that.
Yeah. I'm a huge, so this is how old I am. I started I got introduced to Microsoft with SMS. So even before, I don't even know if you guys know what SMS is, but SMS was like the pre or the guy that came before SCCM, So like to me, I'll always be an SCCM guy. Kurt Branch, Intune, I think is like where they're going now, and its ability to do pretty much almost like it. I tend to believe almost any organization that I go to, their Intune SCCM kind of program is using the program like at 15, maybe 25% of its actual capabilities.
You
So
definitely have to. You
yeah.
definitely have to. You definitely have to tweak that. And when it ties into Defender, it's great because with Defender, it ties into the application, it ties into the cloud, it ties into the hardware, and it tell you what needs to be remediated or your password's too weak. And that's where a lot of times I go through that when I do an audit to identify. Okay, we need to do this policy. We need to do this policy. We need to implement this. So it's a great tool to tie in together.
And it's pretty cool. So like kind of what my company does is we kind of do that, but we do it kind of independent of those tools. Because I kind of always believe in the trust but verify kind of concept. And I'll always have a like kind of like a little bit of a hesitation when people tell me, I'm like, well, what are you using as your vulnerability scanner? They're like Defender, and I'm just like, man, like should I'll always kind of like struggle with that. I'm not saying Defender's not good at all at it. I just always will believe that you want to kind of have separate things doing separate things for your cybersecurity.
You definitely have to have another important
And
analyst besides Defender. We always have to
you
tag team like
you
Sentinel
Yeah.
One.
definitely don't want to put your eggs in that one basket, right? All the Microsoft stuff, right?
Yeah.
But to your point, I mean, Entra is great, and Intune is great for your MDM. So everything that you're kind of working as an ecosystem is important to kind of, align it to that environment.
Yeah, and I just want to add to this, and I speak as a Microsoft Student Learn Ambassador, so we get trained up in all things Microsoft and have a lot of love for the Microsoft products and ecosystem. And that just kind of is saying to anybody watching this, like Microsoft Learn has everything, and you just go to Microsoft Learn and you can go through the workflows. And don't be intimidated by them because sometimes it will say, "Oh, 5 hours." And it's like, no, not really. If you need the lab is there, and that might take you an hour. If you don't need the lab, and it will take you a lot less. I also use Microsoft Edge for the read it to me because they're all sort of written modules. So I'll just kind of chill and listen. And then at the end, they have a little sort of knowledge check. So if it's something that feels like review, you can just jump right to the knowledge check and then do that. And I also like to remind people these are not proctored exams. So if you need some AI to help you in your knowledge check, you can always do that. Sometimes the goal is just kind of move through it. There's just an amazing amount of information out there and learning materials to get started with all of this stuff or just get familiar.
Definitely, that really helped
Gary,
me with my conditional access because it was so complicated. And I'm like, okay, where do I go? It's like I figured this and this didn't happen, so I had to, how like you read the book and Microsoft says this, does this, but it doesn't work, so you have to figure it out.
Gary, are you starting to see kind of like the gaining momentum of companies starting to implement what everything that like Intra brings to the table? Are they starting to get it? I guess is the kind of question I'm asking.
Definitely not because most. I would say 75% of the company is inter ID based. So you have to kind of, you know, Microsoft has it that way where you have to adapt and learn and, buy this license for this and buy
Yeah.
this and that, which is annoying, but hey, that's the Microsoft way.
And
But it helps out when you're doing management, central management for the different products.
I was gonna actually share like the licensing model, the E3, the E5, whatever. Now they call it something else. I don't even know what they call it nowadays. Like how's that? Like that's kind of like the canary in the gold mine of how they're gonna be, working with it because it's all about the licensing model at the end of the
Definitely.
day.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Once a quarter, I meet with my resellers. Okay, when did this expire? Okay, what's going on with this? Because it's constantly changing.
Yeah, it sucks. Like their licensing model is rough. It's rough. It is rough, but it is what it is, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure that like in the back, in some room somewhere, somebody understands it. Oh, that's a good question.
So yeah, I've just got some questions coming in from chat. What are some common configurations that organizations may overlook when setting up identity security from the cloud?
The first one that I was it was multi-factor authentication. Um, so a lot of people work from home, and so they didn't configure it properly. So when you roam or you leave the office, when you go back home, you should re-authenticate and ask you to log back in. And a lot of times that's not turned on, so you got to change it like per device or per location, so that it's constantly asking you to re-authenticate, especially like to emails. If you're in accounting, I'm like every hour I figure you should be re-authenticating because you're dealing with money. Same thing with legal, depending on what role that you have.
Sounds good. And then
and
the next.
and
Oh, go
and
ahead.
share is that with VPN or no VPN or VPN agnostic or like when you're saying re-authenticate, are you talking about strictly for the Microsoft environment or also through the VPN if they're remote? Like how does that play into it?
All the above. When you do the
Okay.
conditional access, it'll tell you remote, it'll tell you VPN, it'll say different.
Hmm.
There's different things that you check, and I just check them all. And then it also will
Okay.
tell you like how often. And then
Okay.
certain applications is like how often.
And it
Nice.
sucks. I mean, anybody who's ever worked in the DoD, they hate it, because like you pull your cat card, damn, you walk away, damn, but it's required, right? And that's the hard part, right? I would like to know in your experience, how do you tell that story so that leadership buys into it? Because they just want to get on their computer and make it easy, right? So, like, do you have any good like stories to tell people as to how to go about selling those kind of concepts to leadership so that that does get implemented correctly?
Yes. So I also work with physical security as well. So we're doing a tabletop exercise, and we had an event, and the front door was open. And so I'll have someone walk to their desk and just log into someone's computer. I'm like, so now you see why it's important? I'm like, I'm not making these things up. I'm like, it's important to have this because you're open to the kingdom and you don't want everybody to the kingdom.
Yeah.
So those
Yep.
tabletop exercises is really, really important because you telling them you have a presentation, this makes sense to them. But when you have an actual example, then it definitely relates to
Yeah, it's
them.
the whole security versus convenience thing.
I don't know. Do we have time? I'll tell you a quick story. Sure. It's funny as hell. So in the military, I was on the red team, and we had this one girl, and she wasn't ugly, if you know what I mean. Like she could get into places, and she actually got into a facility behind the flight line, which is like it's huge, right? Like getting into the flight line is huge. And she got in, and she was able to put a vampire tap in like one of their facilities, and it was so funny because when we were doing our out briefing the wing commander, the guy who runs the base, was like, I want to meet her. And we were like, yeah, you do.
Uh,
It was pretty bad.
yeah. I totally relate to you
That's
and
the social engineering.
yeah, exactly. I totally relate to you and Tom because I'm a military brat. So I totally understand what you guys are talking about. Um and then with
Yep.
Bryce, Bryce, the not know before, we do a lot of training so that they can help, understand it as well. But with me, with my know before training, if you fail something, then you have to take another test
Yeah.
and say, okay. And then sometimes you have to sit down and, have a conversation with them and help them understand because a lot of times they don't understand, like, okay, my urgency is not your urgency. So you have to, team up with them.
Let's take one more question before we wrap it up. today. How do organizations get a handle on NHIs and agentic identities in their environments?
What I normally do is I do an audit. Like I said, who's in a zoo and what they do. So I identify every person has access to the domain. Number one. Number two, I make sure all the yes accounts are disabled. Make sure all the anonymous accounts are disabled. And then from there, identify if you're a vendor, if you're a user, an admin, and then if I don't know who's what, then we usually there's like a manager in there on the attributes. We can identify, okay, who's this user? Is it a valid user? And then like for example, vendors, we turn the access on for
So
24 hours, and then we let that go.
Sherry, so that is that done through periodic access reviews like PARs? Do you do PARs, or like how do you, like, is this just a continuous, check that you do on those just to make sure you have a, okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's a continuing check. Like example, if you haven't logged in 30 days, then your account's gonna be disabled. There's no reason for you. There's no reason for us to have an account on the network for 30 days. You could be on maternity leave. You could be you could be on anything, and that's okay. But we're still gonna disable the account. And then because what happens is as we're doing these audits, and then we force people to change their passwords, and if their account's disabled, you're okay. Why is the account disabled? So we can identify why. And we'll put in the notes and their attributes saying,
Uh,
hey, this person's on maternity leave or X, Y, and Z.
And then Sherry, what are your thoughts on manager access reviews? Like, what are your thoughts on, having those access reviews but signed off by management? Many people don't do those, or they do. That's very seldom. So I don't know from your, from your purview, from your lens, what have you seen? What's your thoughts on the manager
We know
access reviews?
We normally do ours quarterly only
Okay.
because things are constantly changing. People are coming in all the time. And I want to know like what's going on in the network. And then a lot of times they have access they don't need access to. So we least privilege. I just remove it. I
Mm,
just remove it. And then the other thing is like when you transfer from department to department, you still have your old access. So we create a script for that to remove the old and add the new. And it's great for onboarding and offboarding as well.
nice.
Excellent. This is great. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. I know we got off to a little bit of a rough start, but once we got going, it was excellent. Lesson for me: make sure I have access to the slides. Um, really good. Thank you so much, and I'm super excited to as we move on in our event and our day. Uh, John McNicholas, we're going to meet you for when people become the breach: social engineering, MFA bypass, and identity workflow abuse, which is a there's a lot there. I'm excited to hear more about it. So everybody, we'll
Yeah.
meet you in the next session, and we'll see you there. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.